Why does a puri puff up? Aung and Nanda love puri. Puris are simply irresistible. The smell of frying puris fills the air. How delicious! Golden and puffy, they sizzle and dance in the hot oil. Aung and Nanda can hardly wait. They dash over, reaching for the roundest, puffiest puri of them all. But how does a puri puff up? Is there air inside it? Who fills it with air? Aung and Nanda blow up balloons to make them puff up. Dad uses a pump to fill his bicycle tire with air. But Mom doesn't seem to use any of these methods to puff up the puri. She just fries them, and they puff up. Amazing! Aung and Nanda decide to observe, ask questions, and find answers the next time puris are made at home. Dad pours some whole wheat flour into a big dish. He adds a little oil, a pinch of salt, and slowly mixes in water. How come the flour is absorbing the water so readily? Well, the reason is something in the wheat flour is very thirsty. And what do you do when you're thirsty? You drink water. Gliadin and glutenin are two types of proteins found in wheat. Proteins and all other chemical substances are made up of tiny units called molecules. The molecules in these proteins are very thirsty. As soon as water is added to the flour, these molecules drink it up. Then they become big and puffy. They expand. Naturally, they all get squished. There's just not enough room to sit comfortably. So they touch and push each other. They even start to stick together. Sometimes, when you play, you hold hands and make a chain. The whole chain moves together. In the same way, these molecules stick together and form a network. Dad has made dough from the flour. He asks Mom to knead it a little more. She smears some oil on her palms and starts kneading. You need strong hands to knead the dough, she says. If it's not kneaded well, the puris won't puff up. How are these two related? Here's the secret. When you knead the dough, the protein molecules that are stuck together begin to stretch. As they stretch and join, a new protein is formed. It's called gluten. gluten is stretchy and elastic, just like a rubber band. That's why we can shape the dough any way we like. Mom sets the dough aside to rest. She begins cooking the aloo curry. Ong and Nanda run off to play, but they promise to return when Mom starts rolling out the pooris. Now, Mom and Dad are ready. Mom pours oil into the frying pan and places it on the stove. She pinches off a small amount of dough and rolls it into a puri. Dad gently slides the puri into the hot oil. In just a minute, puff! The puri has puffed up. How did that happen? Let's see what happens to the puri. Thanks to gluten, the dough can be rolled easily. When we roll a small ball of dough, it stretches into a flat circle, and inside it, a thin sheet of gluten is formed. When the puri is placed in the hot oil, its lower surface becomes very hot because of the oil. Do you remember that water was used to make the dough? Well, when the puri goes into the hot oil, the high temperature turns that water into steam. This steam is very powerful. It pushes up the gluten sheet, and that's why the puri puffs up. Dad gently flips the puri so the other side turns golden too. Then he lifts it out of the pan and sets it on a dish, hot, crispy, and perfectly puffed. Now, let's poke a tiny hole in the puri with the fork. Do you see the steam oozing out? So, the puffed puri doesn't contain air. It's filled with steam, right? But why some other types of puris don't puff up? There could be 3 reasons. If the puri is rolled too thin, the steam formed inside is not enough to build up pressure, so the puri doesn't puff. Sometimes, tiny holes are made in the puris before frying. The steam escapes through the holes, so the puris stay flat. These flat puris stay crispy and last longer. Also, if puris are fried at low temperatures, the steam forms too slowly. The pressure doesn't build up, and the puri doesn't puff. Now you know the secret. Why some puris puff up like balloons, and why some stay flat and crispy. Experiment to get gluten from wheat flour. Make dough using wheat flour and water. Use just the right amount of water so the dough is not too hard or too soft. Press and knead the dough with the bottom of your palm for a few minutes. If it's too sticky, just add a little oil to your hands. Now cover the dough and let it rest for 10 minutes. It needs a little nap. Take a big bowl and gently place the dough inside, after kneading it a little more. Pour enough water into the bowl to completely cover the dough. Now squish and knead the dough in the water until it turns milky white. Then pour out the milky water and refill the bowl with clean water. Keep repeating the washing until just a small lump is left. Now, when you knead it, the water remains clear. This means all the starch has been washed out of the dough, and only gluten is left. That's because starch dissolves in water, but gluten does not. Take out the small lump of dough. This is gluten. You can stretch it like a rubber band. When you let go, it snaps back. That means it's elastic. But if you stretch it sideways and it stays stretched, that shows its plasticity. Puri facts from history. According to scientists, wild wheat first grew in the Middle East around 11,000 years ago. According to the world's first encyclopedia, Abilashitartha Chintamani, also known as Mansalasa, written in the 12th century by King Someshwa, a dish similar to puri was made back then. It was called pahalika. So that means puri is at least 800 years old. Excavations near Damascus, Syria, revealed wheat that dates back 9,000 years. Tools used for planting, harvesting, and grinding wheat were also found at the same site. Can you find out? Can puris be made from jowar, bajra, or rice flour? Why or why not? Besides puris, what other foods do we make using wheat flour? What happens if you add too much water to the flour while making dough? What happens when flour is cooked in a tandoor or on a tawa?